And college kids are as moldable as they come if we, kind of provide them with the right resources and kind of whatever's going to drive them to keep going. A freshman who has a rough year can turn around and be a great senior, and your all-conference freshman, if they don't kind of keep doing what they're supposed to do, can easily kind of fall out of the lineup pretty quick. All right, welcome to episode 4 of the Player Pursuits podcast. I'm your host, Alex Shattuck. We have a really great guest this week, George Mason golf head coach, Greg Pieczynski. And we're going to talk kind of all things college golf, nothing new here. Our second guest, if you listen to that one, Michael Burson, we kind of dove into that world and we want to keep at it. It's a fun one. It's one I'm comfortable in. And it's one I want more people to know about. So welcome to the show, Greg.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you got it. So George Mason, for those that don't know, is a very good mid-major school in Northern Virginia. Why don't we kind of start by talking about what your college golf season looks like this year? You have some incredible tournaments and courses on the docket.
Yeah, we're currently halfway through it. Division I men's golf is a dual season, so you basically get 24 competition days, and you could spread them out however you'd like throughout the season. So yeah, we have 5 fall events and then 5 regular season spring events, and then our conference championship. So yeah, most teams kind of go about half and half, but you're free to split it up however you want. So yeah, we had a good fall. We had basically an event. Our first event was in Turning Stone, New York, where they used to host the PGA Tour event, hosted by Boston College. We finished 3rd there. And then we had Davidson's event, who's been our conference champion, down near Charlotte. We finished 7th there. And then we played in Tampa at South Florida's event. We finished 9th there in a very good field. And ironically, what we are learning with the new rankings, we actually got the most national ranking points for our 9th place finish there than we did for our 3rd place finish. And then we played a great course in Dayton, Ohio, NCR Country Club. Illinois was there, as well as Marquette, the Big East champs. And we finished 7th again there. And then we finished it out in Greensboro at their event. They're top 40 right now ranked. And same thing, 7th seemed to be kind of our common finish. So we were very consistent. We had 4 different guys garner top 20 finishes, and several of them multiple. And actually, we had a 5th. We had a guy as an individual in the last event, a freshman, Sam Brown, finished 18th. So yeah, we have a young team, and the future is bright. And then we open up the spring here in 3 weeks. We go to Puerto Rico, and then we'll host an event at Mid Pines in mid-March, and then we go to William and Mary's event down in Golden Horseshoe.
And that's my alma mater, just
Yeah,
for those that don't remember. Yes.
exactly. So very good golf course, as you know, and we're looking forward to that. And then we go out west to Seattle, to Chambers Bay, where they played the US Open. And that's spectacular. That's a great experience. And then
that was my last college event, was out there, that tournament. So yeah, I'll be excited to kind of see how you guys do out there.
Our weather we played in it this past year, and the weather was pretty decent. The year before, they canceled the whole tournament, which would have been a bummer. And then we finished it up at Penn State, where I played. And sadly, it'll be the 20-year anniversary of my victory there. So that I can't believe it's 20 years. And then our conference down in Orlando. So
no, you guys schedule unbelievable. I mean, in the spring, you guys are going to have a blast. There's just so many good courses on that list. And speaking of Penn State, let's talk about your background. You've kind of been on different parts of the industry, at clubs, coaching, obviously playing. You really have one of the best backgrounds in the college golfing world right now. So let's kind of talk about that. I'd love to hear more about your playing experience in and right after college?
Yeah, thanks. I've definitely worn a lot of hats. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but yeah, I had a great time. I'm from Pennsylvania, so to play for Penn State it was a a kind of a dream come true, and I had an unbelievable experience, and a lot of it is kind of how I kind of take those experience and mold them into what we can do here. And yeah, so it was I don't know. I redshirted my first year, which was very common for players in our program. With our coach was old school in that sense, and that was a big challenge, right? You're all of a sudden practicing and playing and working out, and you have no chance to play in a tournament. So that took a lot, and then you're working on things, and that's a good and a bad thing when you have a almost a year to work on things, because you can overdo things or you can whatever. So yeah, that was definitely left an impression on me. And so I don't, even though I had success after that, I don't forget about that. And I don't forget about, for those guys on our team going through transitions like that. I remember what that was like. And fortunately, the hard work paid off, and I qualified for our first event that next fall, actually at Wisconsin. He might have, your prior host was probably the coach then, and I came out guns blazing and shot 5 under my first round, was tied for the lead, 5 under the second round, had a 4-shot lead and tournament record, and Penn State 36-hole record. And I didn't win the tournament, but I still managed to have a really good finish, fourth, and that kind of gave me the confidence to that I could play at a high, college level. And I think I ended up with 3 top 10s in that first 5 events that I had. And fortunately, I didn't have to worry about looking over my shoulder and playing. And yeah, I had a great career there. Really strong first 2.5, 3 years. I finished fourth in the East Regional up at Yale. Back we played with Florida, who's the #1 team in the country, and North Carolina. And so yeah, so I didn't play as well. My fifth year, we lost a lot of the guys that I was friends with. So again, that was a big transition year. We went through 3 different assistant coaches when I was there with our success. And proudly, we that one year I did win the Penn State event, and we went on to finish second as a team in that regional at Yale. And we finished 15th in the country that year. We were the second team at that time to make NCAA finals from Penn State, but we're still the only team to make the NCAA finals cut. So we wear that with pride. So yeah, it's a great experience, and it's special for me to get to go back to my alma mater and share that with my team.
Yeah, no, that, and for those that don't, know college golf, I keep encouraging everyone to follow it more closely. But that career is very, very impressive. Every event you got, oh, we can say 12 teams on average, 15 teams on average, 5 to 6 players, depending on who's bringing an individual. It's not like, your basketball, your football is one-on-one or wins, no big deal. Winning a collegiate event is a huge, huge deal. So Greg, where did you head after college?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I got off to a really hot start my first 3 years, and then my last year I didn't play nearly as well as I had. And but my goal was to go to Q school. I just wanted to go to the PGA Tour Q school, try my dream. And I didn't really know how I was going to do that. My parents didn't have any money to give me, and it was, again, over $5,000 just for the entry fee. So I don't know. I went on the website, printed out the application, had all the info, and my plan was, I was fortunate with my resume. I had played in a lot of the bigger amateur events, but I was like, I need to get my game and fix my flaws to get to a point where I can beat, I can make it through and look someone in the eye, an investor or somebody, and say, hey, I'm good enough to get through this confidently. And the other thing that had given me a bit of a confidence was uh, the year before, the guys I had come into college with had graduated and gone to Q school, and five of them made it out and did really well their first year. JB Holmes was one, Nick Thompson was another, Camilo Villegas, Jeff Overton. So when you're playing with these guys, you see that a lot more now, but at that time, it wasn't very common. And they came right out, and I said, well, hey, I played with those guys. I beat those guys. Like, why not me? So that was helpful. But so yeah, I just wanted to work on my game, get it to a point where I could do that. And so I was just going to play in like the state amateur, state open, which were good events, and the club championship. My dad's friend had got me a junior membership at the country club, because that had a nice range, and previously I didn't really have access to that. So their members, had the means to help me out if possible. So I was like, I'm just going to play in the club championship, and I'm going to play so good that it's going to open their eyes. And the course had hosted a Corn Ferry event that I had played in college, and played well in the first round, but missed the cut. So that was the goal. So I did that, and I shot 3 rounds in the 60s. I think I won by like 15. It was a very challenging course. So anyway, we went through that, but it wasn't until about a couple weeks later, and I was really clicking, playing well, shooting kind of mid 60s every round, and I was playing with a dentist and a friend of his who I didn't know, and this is a story in of itself, but his name was, they called him Big Daddy. So he was a big Italian guy, smoked a stogie about 12 inches long, and he maybe spoke 3 words the whole round. And again, lo and behold, I shot 65 that day, and we went in for a drink afterwards, and my buddy, the dentist, is really like, yeah, Greg wants to go to Q school. We should help him out, and whatever. And this guy's just sitting there kind of quiet and nodding. And again, it's one of those weird moments where preparation meets opportunity. I had like this 10-page, the application printed out in my car, like whatever, like in case maybe somebody magically came up. So I ran out. So the big guy Big Daddy finally says, what's it going to take? So I'm doing the math. So I run and get it. I said, well, $5,000 for the entry fee plus expenses. I don't know, 15 to 20 grand to go all the way through. And that was the first year they initiated the pre-qualifying stage. So he goes, all right, I think you should do it. That's all he said. And I remember, for whatever reason, you had to pay with your own credit card. You couldn't use somebody else's. And my credit card only had a $4,500 limit on it. So I was like, well, that's good to know. And the deadline was like less than a week away. So I said, I kind of need the money like now. And so he goes, okay, this is what we're going to do. We'll give you the money for I think it was 2,500 first, the first installment. And then we'll give you a series of checks. And if you keep going, we'll give you a couple of checks to pay your expenses. So that's what I did. I got Raleigh, North Carolina, made it through there. And then I went to, I went to Athens, Georgia first, got through there, then Raleigh, North Carolina, got through there. Then I got Houston, Texas. And this was the first one that was like, had tour players in it and guys that I played a practice round with Neil Lancaster, and he had won a couple times on tour, was in his mid 40s. And you needed it was caddy mandatory, because at this point, I think it's on TV. So I had carried my bag. So they were all making fun of me during the practice round, and all the caddies were in the parking lot trying to solicit bags. And the one guy had asked me, I said, oh, what's your rate? He goes, the normal rate for the week. I didn't know what that meant. So I asked Neil, and he goes, oh, that's about 1,000. Holy crap, $1,000, I don't. All right. And the one thing Big Daddy had told me, he said, don't go cheap, make sure you're not sleeping in your car or doing, you know,
Everyone needs a big daddy in their life.
yeah, exactly. So I was like, all right. And so yeah, so I ended up talking, and so Neil said, I'll tell you what, bro, if I can get the guy down to 850, do you want it? Well, he went and got his caddy's brother. So, and I don't think he knew the golf course. And the course was Deerwood Country Club, which they filmed Tin Cup on.
Mhm.
So the fourth hole there is the famous 18th hole where he keeps hitting it in the water. And the driving range is where he's shanking it. And so, yeah, it was a unique experience. So I go out and I have like one of the last tee times. It's blowing 40 miles an hour. And I shoot, and I'm tied for the lead when I come in. So my phone's blown up. It wasn't as widely, I guess promoted online and everything. I was like, all right, still 3 more rounds. I think I had to finish top 25.
Mhm.
And lo and behold, the last round, I'm like 30th or 28th going in the last round. And my goal was just to be 1 under going to the last like 3 or 4 holes because there were 2 par 5s in the last four. And I'm 1 hole away, and there's a par 3, 185 with water all around. And I was between a 5 and 6 iron, and I hit the 5, flushed it, went over the green into the backwater. I made a triple, birdied 3 out of the next 4 to finish for even par and to just miss. So that was kind of my experience, but it was a great experience. And anyway, it propelled me anyway to have the confidence to keep going. And I had Big Daddy got and 3 others. I got 30 grand to kind of go on my way to start my professional career. And I played for about almost 5 years. And so yeah, so use that. And then I one of the guys joined a new club in Jupiter that I went down, and I worked part-time there, and that turned into me working there for the winter and making money. And then I would use that money and the money I won to play in the summer. So that, yeah, that was kind of what I did for about 5 years. And then that got me into working at a golf course. And then in about 2014, I got a call from a club up in Boston that was hosting the Mass Open that I played in every year. And I actually finished second the 1 year in it. And they were like, "Oh, we'd love to hire you as an assistant pro." And I'm like, "Well, I've worked at golf courses, but mostly outside. I don't really know how to, do anything in a golf shop." They said that's okay. So they flew me up and offered me the job. And I had heard all the stigma about, well, when you work at a course, you don't never get to play. And one of the guys that I knew well and trusted, his business partner lived in that town, and so I did it for 2 summers. It was a tough experience. And yeah, and then that led me to also that's where I first got to coach a college team. A family friend of mine, their nephew got the job at Assumption College, and he needed help with were starting a women's team, so he needed help with the men's team if they were going away at the same time. So that made a big impression on me. I took the team up to Vermont, and weren't going to let me go because my background check didn't clear. So there was a whole fiasco with that. That first led me to how universities work, and so I said, well, that's not right. So they told me, well, you could drive up on your own at your own accord. So they sent like a grad assistant on the basketball team who just slept in the van the whole time, and it snowed, so he had shorts on. So I went there, and I was helping one of the guys who was a senior in the bunker, and he said, "Coach, I don't know how to get out of bunkers," which I thought was a pretty wild statement. And so after the practice round, I told the other guys to practice putting because their putting wasn't too good. And I went down to this bunker um, with this kid, and for the first hour, it was just blade, 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 chunk, blade. And I was like, so we moved his ball, the same basic fundamentals, move the ball forward, open the stance and accelerate. And finally he starts getting it. So he hit some good shots. So I was like, all right, 90 minutes later, the guys were all starving, ready to go to dinner. And we go up there, and I'll never forget. He said, Coach, thanks so much for helping me in the bunker. He goes, in 8 years of organized golf between high school and college, no one's ever helped me like that. And that was the statement that was just like, wow, that's powerful. And the funny thing was that when the tournament started on about the third or fourth hole, I see the kid and he's waving me over frantically. And I go over to him and say, hey, what's up? And he goes, oh, I'm in a bunker. I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I can't remember. What were the couple things that we talked about yesterday? And I mean, he has the most basic, like 15-yard greenside bunker shot, but there was a creek or a water hazard just on the other side. So if he bones it like he had been doing, he was going to hit it in the hazard. So I told him,
Welcome to college golf, right?
yeah,
That's
exactly.
college golf in a nutshell.
Correct. So I said, hey, open the face, ball forward, accelerate. And then the last, the most important thing, I said, don't think, just hit it. So he hit it, and he hit a good shot about 8 feet, missed the putt, but I said, hey, great shot. And he was so excited. His parents were there. And he said, Coach, to be honest, I didn't even see the ball. I think I closed my eyes. I was so nervous. But yeah, so I was like, all right, well, man, I would love to. I was in Boston. There's a lot of universities. And as you know, a lot of the model for Northeastern schools, the coaches are part-time. And, the Harvard coach was the teaching pro at the country club. So I was like, maybe this is a way, because I couldn't, unless you go to your alma mater. And my best friend and teammate was the assistant at Penn State at the time. He's now just got the head coach. So I was like, how do you get in? So that's kind of was my strategy in the back of my mind, and that led me through all these other careers. And yeah, and then I left there, and I was like, well, I really like teaching the game. That's fun. So maybe I could teach golf at a club or something. So ironically, there was my Boston guys. They were putting together a business plan for a golf academy out there, and they raised $5 million for what's now Core Academy, very successful. And they wanted me to partner with the founder, Bill McInerney, and he had one other guy under him, and they're like, we want you to partner with him, and we think he's a brilliant instructor, has a great model and a great thing going, and I think your strengths would complement each other in a business sense. And so yeah, so that got delayed 2 years in litigation and other stuff. So I ended up being offered a job from one of the assistants I worked with, who got a head pro at Manor Country Club in Rockville. So I went there, did that for 4 years, enjoyed it, and I interviewed for Catholic University's job. They were getting their golf team back, and I was down to the final 2. I thought I was going to get it. And then out of the blue, they were like, I didn't hear from them for a month. They said they were going to make the decision in the next week. I'm going, what the heck's going on? Well, here, they ended up, the legendary Bob Dolan at Columbia. I think his brother was a coach at Shepherd University, and he was interested. So they ended up interviewing him. And I think that's where they practice at Columbia. So it was, again, a blessing in disguise. And yeah, and then winter of 2019, I was in Florida, and one of the guys I had played professionally with had done a clinic for GW and said, I'm giving you my whole background, sorry, but yeah, about getting into college golf, and their assistant was leaving, and I was right there. And so I did that in the fall of 2019. And I remember thinking in Labor Day, we drove to somewhere in Gettysburg, a public course, to practice. And one kid had a peanut allergy, another kid had another problem. And I'm going, what am I doing here in the middle of nowhere on Labor Day weekend? And So yeah, so that was a great experience, and I was still um, teaching, and then I got a call from the Richmond coach, who was my old assistant, said, "Hey, George Mason job is open, and I think they'd hire you if you applied." So that's how I got here.
Well, I think everything always kind of works out for a reason because I think you're in a great spot and you obviously offer a lot to the university. So when you get to Mason, I played in the region not that long ago. I'm sure it wasn't exactly, in a position that a competitive person wants to have the program. So what you come in and what are your first moves to kind of change the culture, change where the team's at?
Yeah, so that's the understatement of the year. So well, first, the timing of when I got hired in February 2020. So it was literally 3 weeks before their first spring event. So, working for a government and public institution, there's a million background checks and certifications you have to get. And so that was a whirlwind in and of itself, let alone, as opposed to getting hired in the summer and having that and then knowing the team. And so that was a weird circumstance right off the bat. And then literally a month later, COVID hit. So, so yeah, I remember, um, seeing the team was ranked like 232 or something out of 300 Division I teams. And um, trying to just get information because, how much scholarship money do you have? Like, where do we, where do they practice and play? Well, we don't have a facility. We usually go here a few days. And so it was definitely like, my analogy was it was like taking over a restaurant that had been poorly run and condemned uh and come in and like restaurant makeover. You had to redo the whole interior. We had to hire like you had retrain your staff, had to improve the food because as you could probably appreciate, um George Mason was not really well respected in the college golf community. And like for instance, William and Mary, mid-major, but they they're an established program in a sense in terms of fundraising and hosting a home event and doing and having a good alumni relationships, which are pretty standard. And obviously any school in the mid-major kind of level has their challenges, but we really had no infrastructure. So that was kind of, there were so many things that needed to be tackled. So I just tried to, I guess, prioritize them. And in a sense, once COVID hit, so anyway, we went to, and just it was, um, there was an interim, I guess, coach was the assistant who had just played like 2 years before that. And again, nobody had any records of anything. Like it was just bizarre. Like there was, as you could imagine, like most of the rest of the athletic departments, like golf is kind of its own thing, right? You don't unless you're like at Penn State or one of the few places that have their own golf course, you're playing somewhere else, you're practicing somewhere else, and it's not the traditional athletic experience. So
You don't really run past the other team through the gym, and yeah.
yeah, other
Golf's
than
got its own little weird little place in college athletics for sure.
yeah, exactly. You might work out. That might be the one common or study hall, but other than that, like yeah, it doesn't have that common feel. So first was just to find out as much as I could, and then I remember meeting and saying, "Hey, we're about to have our 50th anniversary of the university, and I don't know anything about the history of the program. I don't know who the prior coaches were or who our lettermen were. There's nothing on our website." Like, so first we need to try and uh, find this stuff out so we even know who to reach out to. And, let alone we don't have names, let alone emails or addresses or whatever. So, so yeah, so that was and then the weird thing, we played one tournament in Florida. It was my first event, and then a couple weeks later, we were hosting over spring break back-to-back weekends up at Mission Inn outside Orlando, and that Thursday was we hosted the first event, and then the second event I had to cancel as the world basically was ending how we knew it when they were canceling the NCAA basketball games.
Yeah.
So then we literally everybody just left, and yeah, we practiced the next fall, but no competitions. But that was a way for me to kind of take care of or do some other stuff outside the program. And yeah, so that's, the first thing was again, like recruiting. Okay, that we're in a great area for golf. Virginia has great players
Absolutely.
and great instructors and great junior golfers and great facilities. So we are a public institution. So we didn't, we have less than half of the athletic money available by the NCAA rules. So I was like, well, we have a great value if we target in-state guys. And not only that, I just wanted to change the perception of the program locally. And so, that's one thing I learned being from Pennsylvania and playing at Penn State was, hey, you always, even, the biggest of blue chip players and recruits, show them the attention and the respect, even if, there's really no realistic chance that they're going to come here. But it's just, hey, they're friends with everybody else, and their word matters. So if they have a good impression of us, and then that word will spread. So again, like a restaurant, word of mouth is the best marketing you can have for anything. So that was really the grassroots kind of thing. And me having connections with a lot of the other instructors, that's kind of was the starting point.
The game of golf. It's both challenging and rewarding, requiring focus, concentration, and the ability to tune out outside distractions. Peak performance is achieved through a synergy of body and mind. Shell Golf Apparel is designed with advanced textile technology that moves with you, with four-way stretch and moisture-wicking properties that keep you cool and dry. Visit shell.shop today and get 40% off the entire golf collection using promo code PlayerPursuits. Now, back to the podcast with your host, Alex Shattuck.
Yeah, you have a great opportunity in a great region that has a lot of resources that were underutilized to get in contact with the types of kids that you want. And yeah, you can't change an entire program overnight, but you can easily start making incremental strides there. So you got there in 2020. It's now been 4 years, which is kind of the time where now your first recruits are starting to be kind of the elder statesmen on the team. Now is probably when you get to see a lot of the fruits of that labor.
Yeah. So what ended up happening with COVID, we ended up only having 6 guys come back, and I think from all that fallout, a couple people, stayed at home or stayed wherever they were. And the hard part was the NCAA put in a recruiting ban during that time, so we couldn't go watch kids play, and they couldn't come visit here. So I didn't want to commit to somebody without vetting them properly. And, because again, a scholarship's only a 1-year contract or commitment. It's not 4 years. But that was always how I viewed it. And it was a 4-year commitment. So I didn't want to commit to someone for 4 years and be stuck with somebody that maybe wasn't a great teammate or wasn't a good fit. So I was a little more conservative and targeted in that approach. So we ended up having 5 guys, and then I needed another guy. So I was taking walk-on tryouts, and I had 3 kids that were interested, and one of the kids was from Leesburg, and his brother he was coming from Nova, a community college, and um, his brother was going to be going to UVA, and so he ended up playing 8 rounds between like the Virginia State Amateur and the Eastern Amateur, and he played well. I think he made the cut and he had 8 rounds, no rounds over 74. I don't think so. I said, hey, that was your qualifier. You're in. We had the other two guys, and I remember I told him, okay, 3 rounds, and you have to, I think shoot under whatever it was, basically 3 over per round. And if you don't break 80 in the first round, you don't move on. That's the cut. And these two guys, the one guy was so nervous, his hand was shaking. I remember trying to tee the ball up. So, again, I didn't want to try and, it was hard enough for them. I wanted to create a welcoming thing and give them a chance. And, neither one of them played well. One kid was smoking a Juul when
There
I
you
was
go.
going over the rules on the first tee. And yeah, and they both shot in the mid 80s, but they wrote me a really nice, thanks so much. I appreciate the opportunity and whatever. So yeah, so we went with 6 guys, and we got so yeah, so we went ahead, and one of the good stories with that is that first spring, um, we had a kid that was my first full year. But the previous spring we had a kid who was a senior, had never played, and he we took all 6 guys because we only had 6 guys, and he played as an individual our first 2 events in Savannah and in Oldfield in Hilton Head, and his scoring average was 83 for the 6 rounds. He broke 80 once. So he's working and the wind's blowing, and he just hit the biggest slice in the world. Like, you would never believe it. It's like, how did he even get to this point? I don't know. So, but he was a great kid, hard worker. And the one day he's hitting balls and the wind's howling left to right, and he's just hitting these big peelers. And, I'm seeing ball after ball. It's like, at some point, as a human, you have to try and do something different. So I just said to him, I said, hey, I said, you understand what makes the ball go to the right? I said, your club face is to the right. So how do we make it, square or go to the left? There's a couple things. So anyway, and so after what we said, okay, try this. And he pull hooked one, and he, was like, oh, I said, no, that's actually good. That's the first ball I've ever seen you hit, not go right. So, we said, all right, now try and swing a little out to the right, though, do the same thing. And he hit this nice little draw. And I remember the whole team just like, whoa, like, nice shot. And anyway, we played our next qualifier, and we had all open qualifiers, and if you won it, you were in, and he tied for low. So I said, you're playing our next tournament. He couldn't believe it. I don't think anyone could believe it. They're like, coach, what are you doing? Like, you're setting us up for doom here. And it was the event we host at Mid Pines. It was the first year we were having it. And lo and behold, he's in I think 8th place going into the last round. So I told him, we were finishing the same second round the same day. I said, hey, I'm going to follow you all 18, help you out. I said, and regardless, you're going to play the next tournament. So just relax. Don't worry about how you play the last round. I could just kind of see him, light up from that. And he shot, I think, 68 in the last round, and he finished 3rd. And anyway, he went on the last couple of tournaments to be one of our leading scorers. So you never know. And credit to him, he never gave up. I mean, he got his teeth kicked in by this game for 3.5 years, and was still coachable, still positive, and still worked hard. So that's a great inspiration. And then the following year, he left, and we brought the kid on that walked on, and we got a transfer from Lafayette, who had won their conference, and we ended up having a great season, and we had 2 all-conference players, him and another a guy, JP Miller, and we finished 3rd in the conference, and that's the best in school history, and we still only had 6 players, so it was a remarkable run. Yeah, so that kind of, I think, validated a lot of kind of what we were saying and how to do it and how it works. And so, yeah, that built a lot of belief. And I think that enabled us to recruit a little bit better. And now, to your point, we've got a good young squad this year. And we're expanding our roster a little bit. We have 9 guys now. And yeah, so we're seeing that, like you said, the guys that are seniors were signed right when I got hired. And then so yeah, so we're excited to see the next 2 years as we keep adding to that.
Yeah, I mean, college kids are as moldable as they come if we, kind of provide them with the right resources and kind of whatever's going to drive them to keep going. A freshman who has a rough year can turn around and be a great senior, and your all conference freshman, if they don't kind of keep doing what they're supposed to do, can easily kind of fall out of the lineup pretty quick. So what, as a mid-major, you're at this program that's making this big turnaround. I mean, we're watching it in real time. What are you defining as success?
That's a great question. Well, so one of the things I put down in our team manual is, our mission statement is for me to create an environment that allows them, our players, to accomplish their goals. So it's as simple as that. And part of our vision is to be one of the best programs in the Mid-Atlantic, in our conference, and competitively nationally. So, that's from day one, that's kind of what we've been doing. I think, personally, I think for me, it's always to have an impact, positive impact. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's no better way or kind of arena to do that than college golf, because it's so unique. And as you know, you're a great instructor. It's like there's nothing better feeling of helping somebody when they get that aha moment. And for me, a lot of times it was beginner golfers or kids, junior golfers, or women that were just learning the game when they just got the ball up in the air for the first time. It was so pure. And, I think college is such a unique point in anybody's life. It's this crossroads of so many things going on in their life, from, for them athletically stepping up to a much, much bigger arena. And then socially, they're on their own for the first time. They maybe have to do their laundry and get their food, and you're living with a roommate. And some people have never had a roommate. And now this is going to set the course academically. It's that much more challenging. And you're meeting some of your best friends that you'll have in the rest of your life. So there's all these like such influential moments happening in this 4 years. So, from the golf side of it, I get to recruit them as juniors. I get to coach and develop them when they're here. And then you get to help them go on after this and see them accomplish their goals, and hopefully they come back full circle to kind of pay it forward for the next guy. So to me, that was the romanticism about, doing what I do is, when you teach, and whether you're at a club or a golf academy or whatever you do, it's a little bit more transactional by nature. There, hour segments or whatever it is, and it's in and out. And maybe you have a few people that you're lucky enough to see on a weekly basis or whatever, and you have that. And two, from a golf standpoint, as you know, it's really hard to make an impact with people that maybe it's once a month or whatever, because everybody's got busy other things going on in their life. And golf takes so much repetition and time to make a change. And we're changing behaviors. Even if it's a swing change, it's a behavior, it's a commitment. So and they have the time to do it, obviously, right? Like, so you know, a lot of when we teach, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If what you tell somebody works, "Oh, I'm good, coach, thanks, I don't need to see you for a while," until they ultimately relapse and they're back to see again. Or, "Hey, you know, I went out and played the next day and that messed me up, and I'm good, I'm good." It's like, well, nobody said to go out and play 18 holes the very next day. So yeah, so again, success, I guess, for us is as long as you know, we're having a positive impact where our guys are getting better from when they got here to when they end. And I have a spreadsheet. We've done that with every player so far. And you know, lastly, that again, we produce guys that can accomplish their goals and have a positive impact on society. And, you know, that's the one thing I could say, regardless of our national ranking, you know, the guys that I've been involved with here are just the best representatives of our school and their families, and of me that you could ever ask for. So that to me is so far what I'm most proud of, and what our legacy is. And like I said, hopefully the whole goal is that they have such a good experience here that when they become successful in whatever they do, that they want to come back and help somebody else realize that dream too.
Yeah, everything you said just speaks to building a really positive culture where people are going to stay involved in the program, and success breeds success. So if there's a kid out there wanting to play college golf, what is any advice to them, or what are you looking for as maybe they contact you, or you're looking for recruits and contact them?
Yeah, the recruiting process can be confusing, and it's ever changing. Even since COVID, things changed a lot with timelines and how the biggest teams operate, and then everybody else kind of follows suit. So um, one, I mean, you have to kind of promote yourself in a sense. You know what people, I mean, communication has got way better with the internet and, you know, databases and junior tours. We have access to a lot more information now than when you and I played. You know, it was hard to
I mean,
almost,
I sent out the big manila envelopes to like
yeah,
30 schools. That was the first big thing.
exactly. So, or unless you happen to get lucky and they were
Yeah.
there watching somebody else and you see them, and that still does happen where you see a lot of good players that, ooh, who's this kid? You know, and then he looks good. But yeah, I would say just even as simply as put your name on your bag. I mean, yeah, if you join the AJJ, they give you a bag tag, but you know, if I'm watching three kids, I don't know who's who. So if you have that name on it, maybe it sticks. Anything, again, be proactive, tell coaches your story, write emails, and don't get discouraged if you don't hear back from them, or you know, you get a response where they might be looking in a different direction. But yeah, so I would say, you know, that's one thing. And then from a golf standpoint, I think you have to, if you're lucky enough and fortunate enough to have a relationship with a coach, that's huge. So, and to buy into what they're saying and to listen and to commit to that, to get better and think of everything long term. You know, again, I think junior golf or tournaments or even college golf, you know, there's the junior golf season short. It's basically June through August. So there's that pressure of having to perform in a short window, but you may be better off implementing the change now and taking a few weeks, and then playing your best later. Because again, it's not just what we see, but from the confidence standpoint, golf's a fragile game. So if you go into an event not ready yet, it can hurt your confidence. So, and I would try and play as much as you can within reason, and whatever level you have to keep excelling at. So I would probably say that would be one of the things now that people maybe don't do. It's like, all right, first try and become the best junior at your club, or win your junior club championship, and then play in your local junior stuff, whether it's interclub stuff or whatever that may, PGA Junior League, right? And then graduate to for us, the Mid-Atlantic PGA Junior stuff, or then other junior tours like the Hurricane Tour or whatever it is, and then your state junior stuff, and then national stuff like the AJGA or whatever. So I think the confidence, and keep developing that as you go forward. It's amazing to me, people will be very mediocre or less than mediocre in their own region, let alone state, but and reach out, and it's like thinking that they have a chance, and it's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're not even one of the best 10 players in your league, let alone multiply that out to who we're looking at or whatever. So I think I would start with that advice.
Yeah, and I think you have to be realistic. I mean, I kind of had my 10 dream schools, my 10 realistic, my 10 fallback, and that was kind of the process I went through, and contact every one of them, email, manila folder, the whole deal, and started going on some visits to places. And where I ended up going, I didn't even hear back from that coach, but I was in the area visiting another school and sent him an email and said, hey, I'm going to be around. Like, if you're interested, let me know. I'll swing by. And it worked out, got a day, rolled out the red carpet. I was committed pretty soon after.
Yeah.
So stuff slips through the cracks. You got to be realistic, but at the same time, proactive.
Yes, proactive's the perfect word. And I think in life and anything you do, being proactive is better than being reactive. And yeah, and to that point, being on this side of it too, it's like, people, I was explaining this to some of the stat program guys, trying to help them out. It's like, who's your target audience? Because everybody wants to go after the top 50 or 100 schools, and that's kind of flashier and sexier, but it's like, yeah, they're the ones with maybe unlimited budgets, or they have 2 coaches, now 3 coaches dedicated to that stuff. But the reality is the other 800 don't have an assistant coach, and they're on very limited budgets and time. And so, yeah, so as we mentioned earlier, a lot of the coaches are part-time, believe it or not. Like, they have other full-time
And it is
jobs.
not a part-time job. I was an assistant coach for a year at a mid-major, and it's demanding.
Correct. So, and I could guess, I don't know where you were, but whatever they paid you was not enough to live on. So you were having to grind it out and do a lot of other stuff. So yeah, that's my point. It's like most schools don't have someone just dedicated to recruiting, like a lot of, like, football and basketball, that people assume golf has that same access to it. So like you said, don't get discouraged, just be proactive. And I think that's a great advice, is have that list. And one of the things I try and help people with, or their coaches with, it's like, all right, here's where your kid is, here's kind of what a coach is going to go through, what they're going to look at, and where you're in the pecking order. These are the type of schools and where they're ranked and whatever that would be interested. And based on your other criteria, maybe size of school, maybe geography or region of where you want to be, and maybe academically, majors and maybe cost, you put together your list, and we can help you kind of go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that where George Mason is now fits into, the criteria I had. I wanted to be DC or lower. I wanted, a certain level of academics, and I wanted ranked, 50 to 125 or whatever it was at that time. Like that was what I fit in. I emailed every school that fit that criteria. And that's
Yeah,
where I felt like I could play.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of it we've, yeah, like I said, I had a strategy per se about, who we could focus on, but it was more, like I said, had more to do with within our region. But and it was because of a restriction in resources on our end. Like, I'm not flying to California necessarily to recruit, or internationally, or wherever. So, but yeah, but what's evolved into this is, we have gotten a lot of Virginia players, and we're getting kids that, like you said, they want a great academic school, and we could offer that, and especially in a couple, different areas or degrees that George Mason really excels in, and we're probably in the northernmost spot where you can play 12 months, like you said, in terms of golf. That's big for people. And then our proximity to a major city, right? And
That
that,
and even some of the golf courses you guys have been able to gain access to. Why don't you speak to that? And then, kind of along the same lines, you are still playing at a very high level. You won the section championship this year. Did I get that right?
yeah, thank you. So, yeah, as far as the first part with the area we're in, we're lucky, we're unique. So we're in the suburbs.
Mhm.
So the other DC area schools, they're in the city. And whether you're Georgetown or George Washington, or a lot of these schools, there's five DC schools within the city proper. They have challenges that we don't have, in terms of, you can't have a car if you're a student. Obviously, it's a completely different university experience, being in a city as opposed to, our campus is much more traditional in that sense. It's got a lot of trees and water, and it's more that iconic campus kind of look to it. But yet we've got access, if you want to drive into the city and go to a Caps game, or a Nats game, or go to all the restaurants or the monuments or whatever else. So for us, we're very fortunate. We're very close to Dulles and Reagan airports. So yeah, so the school has a lot to offer, and I think that's why this whole area in general, the growth of the area, is helping the growth of our school. We're the largest school in Virginia already, so people don't realize that, but yeah, and because of that, we're in the area with most of the country clubs.
Yeah.
So accidentally, again, that's one of our advantages, and we play to that. And one of the models, again, whether it's like Northwestern or somebody like that, where, yeah, we don't have our own university course, but we have the next closest thing. I mean, Country Club of Fairfax has been such a great partner to us for a long time. They're literally across the street from the school. And during the week, they give us great access. And as you know, most country clubs aren't busy during the week, so our guys can play, and play, quickly. It's not a 5-hour round at all. And so they embrace, and the synergies with the university have always been good. And then, we supplement that with getting access. I think last year we played 9 different courses. The courses we've played, and many of them will play multiple times, but it's been Bellhaven Country Club. We played Westwood, Chantilly National. We played Creighton Farms, the Nicholas Signature course. We played both Trump courses. So we even played Robert Trent Jones Golf Club, that's hosting the Solheim Cup in the fall. So and there's International Country Club here in Fairfax. So Yeah, we're so fortunate. There must be 20 country clubs within 30 minutes that we can get to during the week. And, a lot of the clubs, understandably, they're busy enough with their members. Access on the weekends is very challenging. But for us, for our guys to get out of class and to go drive 30 minutes and to play other clubs is great for the growth of their games and their diversity of their games. But it's also great for the members, because a lot of them went to school here. And that's the other unique thing is, like 80% of our graduates stay in this area to work. So, again, I went to Penn State. Nobody stayed in State College. So people, right here are very loyal and have gone to school, and they're looking to support our guys and us, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, and for those that aren't familiar with the area or whatever, that you would be hard pressed to find a collegiate program that plays a better set of golf courses regularly. And when you throw in at the tournament schedule, there's almost no one in the country that's playing such a great slate of golf courses throughout the year.
Yeah.
So let's wrap it up by kind of talking about your game. PGA section champion. You're busier than most people would probably think as a college golf coach. What are you doing to keep your game sharp? Are you taking money off the guys? Like what's going on?
No, well, of course not, Alex. That's against the rules. No, but definitely, it's a two-way street, right? I've benefited from playing or practicing or just watching and observing them, and I just thought, again, one of the things that would help me as a coach is to never forget how hard the game is.
Mhm.
And because it's a maddening game. It's a really hard game. And, nobody tries to miss a 3-foot putt or hit a ball out of bounds, but it does happen. And so, yeah, one of the things I often tell our guys is I'm not going to ask them to do something I haven't already done or I'm not willing to do right now. So I think with that in mind, they know, like, oh, well, it's not just old man, at the cloud. So yeah, I think that's important to keep challenging myself, and just to become a better coach and learning new ways. And like I said, whether it's data and analytics or, swing methods or, using, swing catalysts or force plates or whatever it is, that's helped my game and myself as a coach. And like I said, I have an extra special pride of representing them when I go play. And that's really, helped our team with those relationships with so many of the other great instructors in the area and pros and facilities. And so, yeah, so I'm not going to lie, I had been playing better this summer. But it was still a surprise. Yeah, the Mid-Atlantic PGA, the section championship at Baltimore Country Club in September, which was just as our season was starting. The only thing was, I love that course. It reminds me of the classic courses in Pennsylvania where I grew up. And the last time I qualified for the national PGA was there as well. So I had good vibes there. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, though, it's been a long time. It was a 3-day event, and having the lead or part of the lead every day, I was nervous and again, I was trying to close the deal for our guys and practice what I preach.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I coached at South Dakota State for a year, and our director of golf had just come from Tennessee, where they were ranked #1 as their player development guy. And second day of practice, we just started qualifying, and we're watching, and he goes, "You're going to get so much better just watching these guys because they're raw, and you're going to notice every mistake. And we're going to try to patch them up the best we can, but at least you're going to learn and be a better player." I thought I still might play later again, but it's a fun way to make a living. That's for sure.
It is. It is. I'm lucky, and hopefully, I know you're following your passions, and you've been very good your different things that you've gotten into from coaching and doing this. But yeah, I have busy and hard days, but I haven't had a bad day. So you know, and that's, like I said, I am lucky to do what I enjoy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Greg. That was a quick, hour and a half, but we're gonna let you go. I'm sure you got work to do. It was great having you on. And yeah, if anyone has any questions about anything we talked about, I'm sure we can both contact either one of us, social media. I'm sure we're happy to get back to you. Thank you, and see you guys later.
See you. Thanks.